Debbie Davis.
Uh,
We're gonna record today's session as long as you're okay with that, Debbie.
I'm fine with that. Just don't be putting it on Facebook.
We won't. We'll put it on YouTube and Twitter and Vimeo, and I'm just kidding. But well, we're so grateful for you. And I know there's a lot of new people on today's Friday Night Leadership, a lot of new people that, really haven't been to an ACN convention, doesn't know a lot of ACN's history. So we're going to do a little panel style today of an interview conversation. I think everyone's going to get a lot out of that. Sound good?
That sounds great. But before you do, can I just say a couple things?
Sure.
Okay, first of all, I want to give it back to you. And I did hear a part of your introduction before. Somehow I got cut off, and I appreciate you so much. Jeff and Melissa, both of you you mean so much to me and to this entire company. And I just am so impressed with everything that you have done with ACN, the leaders that you are, the leadership that you provide to your team every week. This has been a phenomenal call. And I'm just so impressed. And I know, Lauren, you are very blessed to have the Streets at the helm of your ship here at ACN. But I also want to give a shout out to our brand new RVP, Shannon Navarro. Congratulations. And, RVP Susie and Ken Potter, I know you guys have been killing it. But I also want to congratulate the regional directors on this team that are really working and making things happen. Steve Gerard, Carrie Dahl, Paul Mercier, and Fred Sullivan. And Missy Potter, congratulations on being #1 in RD pre-reg. And Miss Lauren McQueen, congratulations to you and all your success and your top leadership. And you did a great testimony on Jeff and Larry's call the other night. And I'm super impressed with you. And Jeffrey, you did a fantastic job on the call the other night too. So you guys just have a great team, and I'm just really impressed with everything that you do, everything that you mean to ACN. Like I said, I mean, you have helped me personally so much, and you guys are rock stars.
It's so funny for me to hear you say Jeffrey. It's like Jeffrey's in trouble. We're using full names here today, guys.
Okay, wait. I got to tell you, first of all, my brother is Jeff, and spelled the way Jeff Street is. My husband was Jeff, as you know, and Jeffrey, I just always called him Jeffrey most of the time. So that's just my name for Jeffrey.
I love it. Yes, we're very grateful for this team and all the incredible leaders. So again, thank you for your time. So Debbie, first question I'd love to ask you, because again, a lot of folks are just meeting you for the first time. So let's kind of rewind the time a little bit. Everybody runs ACN at their own speed and at their own pace. So let's go back to, who was Debbie Davis when she first joined ACN? What was her why, and what did that look like as you started this business?
That's a funny question, because I can hardly remember 31 years ago. Well, first of all, I'm a housewife, no college, no skills. I honestly, when I was 12 years old, I said to my mom, I said, I want to be a mom. That's what I really want to do in life. I want to be a mom. And my brother, who was 3 years older than me, was mortified. He's like, oh, Debbie, you have to be grown up and you have to have a husband first. I'm like, okay. I didn't mean right now, but that was just a passion of mine, to have children. And I had 3 little kids when we started. Jeff, my husband, did a great job. He has a bachelor's and a master's degree, had a great career. So I was very blessed to be able to stay home and raise my kids. But I wanted to make some money to create some of the extras, things that we had, goals, dreams and goals. We had our dream house on paper. We had for 18 years without a clue how we could afford to build it. Stuff like that. I just, when I originally got started, I had failed 4 different times in network marketing and vowed never to get involved in network marketing ever again. But I knew the co-founders of this company, and I really believed in my heart, if they were the ones putting this together, that it was going to be huge. So I did not get into ACN because I thought I could be successful. I got in because I was terrified of missing out on what I believed they were going to do. And it took me literally 3 weeks to be happy about being involved, because I just didn't want to do it. And a big part of that too is that I had zero confidence. My kids were knee high, and that's how high my confidence level was. So I learned early on how important the training was, because I knew they had all had successes in this industry. And I really thought, you know what, if I just listen to them, forget about everything I thought I knew. If I just listen to them and follow what they say and just try doing what they say, you know, to my best of my ability, maybe I could be successful at this one. So I set my goals really low, and this is kind of embarrassing, but my first goal was to make $200 a month. I wanted $50 a week to take my kids to brunch every Sunday, because I hate to cook. That was literally my first goal. And the reason I made my goal that low was because I figured I could do that doing just about anything. So I thought, if I make my goal there, then I will succeed, and I won't have to say I failed a 5th time. Isn't that pathetic? But anyway, that's where I was. That's where my mindset was when I started. So
First of all, $50 brunch for you and the whole family is like non-existent today. That's just me and my meal, you know, today. Forget about Jeff. But you well, and there's 2 things that you shared that I absolutely love. I'm guilty of forgetting about this, but you talked about a vision board, like how you had that dream house and had it written out of like what it would look like and feel like and whatnot. And so this is just a good friendly reminder for all of us on this call right now. If you've never built a vision board, today would be a good day to start visualizing, like, what does success look like to your terms, right? Like for your family and the vacations or the, you know, college tuition or whatever the case may be. But I love that you just shared that, Debbie. Thank you for sharing.
Let me just add one thing to that then. You know, when I started ACN, I had goals, and what I did, and I had 3 little kids. So anybody that has children, this is just a great idea. You know, I always thought enrolling your kids in your vision was a really smart thing, because I remember when I went to Saturday training, it was an all-day thing. And I had been home with the kids. Jeff was the one always, you know, out. So my kids were used to Jeff being gone, but they were never used to me being gone. And so when I would leave, it was like, Mom, where are you going? You know, and I always told Jeff that I didn't want him to work overtime on Saturdays. I said, the money's not as important to me as our time together. So that's what I told him. Now I'm leaving on Saturday to go to a training. And he's like, wait, what? And my kids were like, no, hanging on my coattail, on my pant legs and everything. And so we kind of set them in, we had the goals as well with them. And one of the things that I did that I didn't even realize the kids even noticed or would see or think about was, on our refrigerator, I had this list of my monetary goals. And every month I wanted to increase what we had, because we were saving to build our home. And they knew we were going to build our home. They were excited about that. But I had my monetary goals of how much money I wanted to go up every single month. And they would come in and look at that, and they knew enough about numbers. The older ones did. They knew enough about numbers that the numbers get bigger. That means that she reached her goals or whatever. So I would have my goal and then what I actually made, you know, on the other side. And if I didn't at least hit that goal or go higher, then they had a problem with it. So they were like, Mom, what happened? You know, and which I thought was fantastic. But what happened through that was, number one, I had somebody that was holding me accountable, that I knew I had to prove. Like, all right, well, I'll first tell you, when I saw ACN and Jeff had not, I'll never forget this. I walked into the house and we had a foyer that opened up into the living room. And I did one of those Kramer slides on Seinfeld, and I slid into the room and I said to Jeff, "We're gonna be rich." And he, God bless him, he had the clicker in his hand. He was watching TV. He did not even look at me. And he just went like this, "Again." And I heard that so many times. So, and this is just, I'm like these little clue things for me. I'm just little reminders. So I remember him saying, again, and I thought instantly in my head was, I saw this and he didn't, right? So he doesn't know what I saw. So there's no reason he would feel as excited as I am, obviously. But I realized that the next words out of my mouth were going to be really, really important, because it was going to make the difference of me either doing this or not doing this. And I knew that he did not want me to do this, because he didn't want, it's just like one more thing. He saw more money going out, and blah, blah. So I instantly in my head thought, Debbie, if you're going to insist that you're doing this, then you better make this happen. You better do what you've got to do in order to be successful here. So don't just say something and then go and have it be number 5. So I really had that quick little instant self-talk thing, right, happen. And I said, but I also knew that if I was going to do it, I had to be very strong about it, and I had to not be wishy-washy about it. Because if I gave him one little inch, he would have wiped me up like a dish rag on the floor, So I said, look, I love you, but you saw that I saw this and you didn't. I really believe in these 4 gentlemen, and I really believe that this is different. So I'm going to do this whether you want me to or not. So the ball is in your court. You can support me and we can be happy, or you can buck me all the way and we can be miserable. So the ball is in your court. And he looked at me and said, "Well, go ahead and do what you want to do. You're going to do what you want to do anyway." And I said, "Thank you." And I walked out of the room before he changed his mind. But so my point is, that was one really important thing. I'm going to give you one more little thing, because this is a really good tip. I remember, I know a lot of you, I heard, have been in ACN for a week or a month or, very short period of time. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you haven't figured this out, I'm going to give you a news flash. Not every day is a wonderful day in ACN. Stuff happens, and not every day goes exactly the way you want it to go, right? So I would come home, and Jeff had to get up super, super early to go to work. And most often when I came home from a meeting, because we had meetings in the evenings, when I came home, he was like in bed, and so I remember one time, he was up and I said something like I wasn't happy about something, somebody didn't show up or, whatever. And I said something negative, and he said, "Well, then quit." It was like, this was what he was waiting for. He was waiting for me to say something, complain about something with it. He looks all excited. "Well, then quit." And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, quit. If you don't like it, you don't have to do this." He said, "Just quit. Don't put yourself through it." And what I really heard was, "Don't put me through this." So I said, "Well, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm just saying, And but I learned something. Don't do that. So if you're going to have anything negative to say, just like you're not going to say it to somebody in your downline, if you have something negative, say it to your upline. Don't go sideways. Don't go down. Say it to your upline. Let them help you through it. But and by the way, I didn't really have an upline because it was the company. So I learned to just deal with stuff myself. But anyway, so here was a little thing that I did when I came home. I got to the point where I wanted Jeff to know that I appreciated what he did and what he was doing so that I could do what I was doing. Because, you know, when I go to a meeting, how many of you agree we're going to go really work super hard for the weekend on this business trip in Cleveland? You know, I mean, oh, it's just, oh gosh, I can't believe it. You know, I mean, so I had fun when I went to ACN events. You know, I had a great time, and he was home doing stuff like, I mean, not that taking care of our children was horrible, obviously, but, you know, I mean, if there were challenges or school stuff or whatever, issues with the house, something went wrong, he was having to deal with that. So he wasn't going and having this big fun social thing like I was. So I really realized that his role in ACN, even though he wasn't in ACN until I hit RVP, we were still partners in ACN because you each have roles. And so if you have somebody that is not working the business with you and you're coming home to them, man, I'm telling you, if you want support, just appreciating whatever they do, appreciate them as much as you want them to appreciate you. Because like they always said, it's the little things. Honestly, it is the little things that make such a big difference. And I remember I used to write little love notes to Jeff, and I would put them on his pillow before I left to go to a meeting or something, so that when he woke up, that he would, or when he went to bed, he would see that when he turned the bed down, he would see that before he went to bed. And that was the last thing. And another thing that I did was I would come into bed, he was sleeping, and I would just kind of snuggle up next to him just enough to barely let him know I'm home, you know, and then I would just whisper in his ear, "We're gonna be rich." And I just, you know, that was just my little thing, you know, I mean, and so I did that because I wanted him to have something positive to hold on, because he would leave for work before I got up, you know. So anyway, that was just, and I'm telling you, I've heard him say so many times how valuable that was for him, how much he felt supported and appreciated, and it makes a world of difference. So anyway, just those little parent or spouse or kid tips.
And that was great. And I hope that Jeff Street was taking notes, because I expect a love note tomorrow morning when I wake up. Okay. But my least favorite love language is personal touch. So please don't cuddle. Just leave the note and maybe like your credit card. That'd be great. But you know, I love what Debbie just said. A few things that jumped out. Accountability. You know, for those of you that have children, you know, I don't have children yet, but if you have children, find a way to get them involved in the goal, right? Like maybe something visual on the fridge. I know Senior Vice President Chanel Burr always says like she would put like a picture of the toy or a trip that they're trying to accomplish as a family and say, "Mommy needs to do X amount of meetings in order for us to get this." So the kids saw it daily. Maybe you need to have that conversation with your spouse. So love that. And you know what, Debbie, my mentors always told me a true leader is excited when there's nothing to be excited about. A true
Right.
leader is excited when there's nothing to be excited about all the time. So you guys, that is so huge. A quick tip to add to what Debbie said is, if something isn't going so great in your ACN business, you go up, talk to your upline. If something positive is happening in your group, speak it to your downline. So always negatives up, positives down. You guys, that was a huge tip my mentors gave me years ago. This is so good. So let's roll on to a second question that I have for you, Miss Debbie. One of my favorite trainings amongst all the trainings I've heard you do is about the simple question of who do you know? And I would love for you to kind of share with us a little bit about what is that training, who do you know, and truly, how did Patrick Mazer and Michael Mazer and Jeff Street end up in your organization? Because you guys, just so you know, we are part of Miss Debbie Davis's team. So talk to us about the Who Do You Know training.
Yeah, and how lucky am I to imagine having those guys in your organization. I mean, wow, it blows my mind. I mean, talk about being blessed. So, all right, well, I'll tell you, I heard okay, so they say make a list, right? They told me to make a list of 100 people. And I busted out laughing. I'm thinking, who the heck am I going to put on this list? I had one best friend. I had talked to everybody that I knew in all these other companies. Nobody wanted to hear. They saw me come with a smile on my face. They were like, oh no, what has she got now? They did not want to hear from me. They did not, nothing. Even, but I talked to them anyway. And I'll tell you this, it took me 3 years to reach the top position in the company at that time, which was RVP. And I want to give you just a little perspective here, so you know and understand how incredibly fortunate we are right now and how incredibly awesome this company is. When I got to RVP, all right, you needed 5 legs with what we would refer to as an RD. 5 legs with an RD in it. That got you to RVP. To get to RD at the time, you needed 5 legs with 200 customer points in each of 5 legs. And we only had 1 point per service, and we only had 1 service per household, long distance. Yeah, wow is right, Lauren McQueen. It's crazy. It was nuts. It was ridiculous, but it was so awesome. So we didn't know any better. I mean, how many of you would literally think, holy cow, I'm not doing that? I mean, if you had to do, if that's all it was, how many of you would probably not do it? Right? I mean, but we thought incredible because we didn't know any better. We didn't know that down the road we'd have a gazillion services to offer. We didn't know that there would be so many points per household that you could actually acquire. We did not know they were going to change the comp plan so many times, because what they've always said is, as the company goes and grows, we're going to give back to the people that built the company. We're going to put more money into the compensation plan. We're going to maybe make it easier to get to these levels, which they have done everything they've said they were going to do. So I'm just giving you a perspective, because a lot of times people just don't know how to appreciate how incredible this opportunity really, really, really is. So I just said a brain freeze, you guys. I'm sure I'm going to give you all a lot of confidence that you do not have to be really smart to do this business. But what's the question again?
Who do you know, Debbie?
Okay. So thank you. So, okay. I had nobody on my list. All right. So it took me 3 years to recruit my first family member. It took me 3 years to recruit. 3 years to recruit the first person that I knew before ACN into ACN. So I was in the business for 3 years, hit RVP, and I did not know one single person that came into my business before I saw ACN. Not one. So you might say, well, where did you find these people? All right. So I will tell you, I got great at creating a confidence level in myself when I had no confidence. I got great at talking to people like I knew them my whole life. That was what I learned to do. So I never met a stranger, so everybody, there's 2 markets. There's your warm market. Those are people that you know. There's your cold market. Those are friends you haven't met yet. And that's how I looked at everybody. Like that was just a friend I had not met yet. So when they're, and talking to people was not something that was super easy for me, but I just had to grow to be that person that it was super easy. Now it's super hard for me not to talk to somebody that I don't know. I was with a friend the other day who doesn't really know ACN, and she's like, do you always talk to everybody? Yeah, sorry. It's my habit. So anyway, my point is that you have to sometimes grow and do things that you don't think you could do. Like, for example, speaking in front of other people. It took me an entire year to do my first presentation. I know I'm going to give you guys so much hope now because this sounds so crazy now. So a whole year before I did my very first presentation. So I just took people and said, listen to them, took people, listen to them, took people, I don't know how to do it, listen to them, listen to them, listen to them. And honestly, that was one of the greatest things I ever could have done. It was a blessing. So I talked to people, but what I learned to do and get good at was what I call tap rooting. And tap rooting is just finding one person and then digging through them to the people that they knew. So I didn't know people. So I had to find someone who liked the business so that I could get into their warm market. You know, when I was all through mine, I got to get into their warm market. So who do you know was, to me, the $1 million question. That was the most important question that I could ask somebody. And what I would do is just listen to what they're saying to me. And they would be saying, I do the presentation, or, they'd see the presentation. Do you like what you're hearing? Yeah, but, and then if there was a but, I would always turn that but into, that's okay. Let me ask you a question. Who do you know that is whatever the opposite is? Like, for example, I'm too old to do this. Oh, that's okay. Who do you know that's younger? You can still do this. Who do you know that's younger? Oh, I'm too young to do this. That's okay. Who do you know that's older? Right? I don't think I can do this because I don't have the confidence. That's okay. Who do you know that does? Whatever it was. I don't think I can do this because I don't have time. Oh, that's okay. Who do you know that does have time? So it never mattered what the objection was. It would always be okay because there are other people that that I don't know that don't have that objection. They might be open, they might be interested. So it just became something that I got really good at. My neighbor, right behind my house, I actually went to her to get her as a customer because I knew she wouldn't do the business. So I completely prejudged her. All right. So I went to her, I asked her to be a customer, help me out, be a customer, help me build my business. And she said, okay. She says, well, what, oh, no, I said before I left, I said, I really appreciate this. And let me ask you a question. Who do you know that might be open to doing something like this? Because every time you pay your bill, I'm going to get a little piece of it. So how, who do you know that might be interested in making money by helping other people, get their service or whatever? And she said, at the same time, she said, what about me? Her husband said, what about Jane? And I was thinking, are you kidding me? Jane, my neighbor, she had grown children. She had never had a job in her life. And I just totally prejudged her. I said, you would want to do this? She said, yeah, I don't think that I can, but I would love to. And I said, well, that's okay. Who do you know that you think can? And so she led me to a guy. He said, I don't have time. I said, that's okay. Who do you know that does? He led me to a guy that played professional hockey for the Red Wings in Detroit. And that guy was actually during the lockout. We call it the lockout for 3 weeks or something. There was no hockey. And so he said, I actually played golf with this guy today who is in the, NHL, and he's not playing right now. So you want to talk to him? And I said, yeah, he was sitting in his house. I put him on the phone with me. And I told him, he said, well, look, if I could just make enough money to pay for my son's diapers. Now, at the time, this was 30 years ago or 28 years ago, this guy was making $375,000 a year playing hockey. To me, that was so much money. And I was like, and you need money for diapers? I mean, I'm like, okay. So I went and sat down with him and showed him the business, and he really liked it, but he only had 3 weeks. He said, once I'm in hockey, once hockey starts up, he said, I can't do anything. I said, well, then we better hit the deck right now. So we just went like crazy and we talked to everybody. And he actually had a gentleman who was in town from Rochester, New York, who owned a jewelry store. And he came to the meeting and he saw it. He was like, this sounds good, but you know what? These things don't work. Now, I just want to give you another thing of posture. Okay, first of all, I've never had any success. I mean, I never owned a business. I never, you know, I sold Tupperware. I made crafts, sold them in craft shows. I did, you know, little things like that to make extra money, that kind of stuff. But I never had any business experience. This was a jeweler. I knew nothing. And so what I said to him at the time had to take it. You cannot say this without confidence, because you have to feel it. And I was not confident at the time, but I thought, this guy needs to hear some strength. And he said, those things don't work. And all I could think of was, he knows a lot of people in Rochester, New York that I don't know. And I need to get to those people. So I've got to tweak something here. And I don't know if I'd say it exactly this way today, but I said to him, I said, what? I said, are you kidding me? I said, man, network marketing has created more successful people in this country probably than any industry. Where have you been living, man? Under a rock? And he looked at me and he was like, oh, well, no, I mean, you know, yeah, okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Would you come up to Rochester, New York to do a presentation? And I said, well, it depends. How many people? Now, what I wanted to say, heck yeah. What I said was, well, it depends. I mean, how many people could you get in a room? He said, how many people would I need? I said, how many people could you put in there? He said, if I got 25, I said, well, if you got 25, I'll come and do a presentation for you. I would have gone if he said 2. All right. So anyway, number one, there's another clue there. You have to be flexible. You have to be willing to go. You have to be willing to do whatever. Right. So he said, all right, I'm going to put 25 people in the room. You come up and do a presentation. So we set the thing up. I went in the next week. I got in my car. I drove 6 hours to Rochester, New York, and I did a presentation. There were 17 people in the room, and I brought home, at that time, we didn't have internet, go figure. I brought home applications, hard copy paper applications. And I brought, out of the 17 people in that meeting, I brought home 11 apps. Now, I didn't know that was pretty good until I got into Robert Stevanovsky's office, in our little office that at that time you could just walk in and throw your stuff on the table. And I went in there and I laid those on the table, and he counting them like this. He goes, Davis, pretty good. I went, oh, really? So anyway, Danny Valanino was one of the people whose apps I had on that table.
Wow.
So now, yep. So now I got Danny Valanino, and I was going back up to Rochester. Oh, but no, wait, I'm not done with that story though. So when I was up there, I was staying at my sister-in-law's, who happened to live in Webster, close to Rochester, New York. Thankfully, that was wonderful. So anyway, I was at her house. That night that I did the meeting, Danny walks up to me and he said, now look, he walked up right after I said, how much it was to get started. And at that time it was $495. So I said, it's, you know, one-time fee, $495. Dan walks right up to me and he says, hey, I really appreciate this, but I gotta go. I got a call. He was working in import export stuff in the other side of the world and all this stuff. So anyway, I gotta go, but I'm interested. Okay. He walks out. 5 other people walk out right behind him. And I'm thinking, that's just wonderful. So at 11 o'clock that night, Danny called me and he said, oh, hey, I'm not waking you up, am I? And I had just gotten, I didn't have a cell phone. So he was calling the number that I gave him, which was my sister-in-law's phone there. And he said, I'm not waking you up, am I? I said, no, why? He said, well, I'm wondering if you can meet me at the Applebee's. It was just down the street from where I was. I wonder if you can meet me at the Applebee's. And I said, sure. When do you want to meet? He goes, now. I said, oh, okay. You got to be flexible. I got up, I put my makeup back on. I threw my clothes on quick. I ran out the door, and I went and met him at the Applebee's. And then he asked me, he goes, okay, look, just tell me exactly what I have to do to be successful. What's my first goal? So at the time, it was a position called executive team trainer, and you had to have 5 business partners. Now this would be like, it just cracks me up when I think of the difference of our comp plan now. You had to have 5 business partners, and you had to have, they had 5 business partners. And I think, I can't remember the number of the customers, but it wasn't anything like we have now. So anyway, he said, I said, this is what you got to do. You have 5 business partners and a certain amount of customers, whatever it was. And he goes, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'll do that tomorrow? What? It's 1 o'clock in the morning at this point. But it's on my head. I'm like, I can't do this tomorrow. But on the outside, I said, okay. All right. So we were supposed to meet at 11 o'clock in the morning. He called me at about 10 o'clock and he goes, dang, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought. And I'm thinking on the inside, no kidding. And on the outside, I said, well, why? And he said, because I've only got 3 business partners and 15. And on the inside, I'm thinking, what? And on the outside, I said, well, it's still early. So you got time for the rest of the day. So anyway, it cracks me up when I think about kind of these things and these stories and things that happen. I learned so much from them now because I have so much perspective of, from where I am today and what all these little things did for me and how it really trained me inside. And how I felt like I was training myself. So you go to training and you learn, but then you have to go apply something so that you can learn even more. And then when you come back to training, it means 10 times more than it did when you heard it the first time because of the experience that you have, from actually putting into practice the things that you are learning. But so that's how I learned that's literally how I built my business. So I said, Danny, who do you know? And then they just lead you one way or another. And what you're going to do is you're going to spend 80% of your time with and looking for those, not just green apples, but the people that are the leaders. You're looking for the leaders. Danny was a leader from the get-go. And you're looking for those people and you just put, time into them until they can, then they go and they're going to be like, get out of my way, so you can see them. So sometimes it's frustrating when you're working with people that are real leaders because sometimes they will kind of buck the system sometimes, or you think that they're not as coachable. And a lot of times they'll just learn by doing the wrong thing. But I look at what they're doing. Are you doing something? Because I look at what they do and not just what they say they're going to do, so that makes a really big difference. But yeah, so one leads me to another who leads you to another. So you're on a leader hunt, not just a person hunt,
Mm-hmm.
But Larry Raskin taught me years ago that, one leader can lead you to hundreds, if not thousands of people. So yeah, you're looking for hundreds and thousands of people, but you're looking at them through the leaders that you're going to find along the way. Does that make sense?
I mean, all of it. That was so good that I couldn't take notes fast enough, and having to listen to you and then the chats going. That was so amazing, Debbie. And again, for those of you that don't know, we are a part of Debbie's organization. So the Who Do You Know led all of us to this Zoom call right here. Again, Debbie's very humble, but remember, she was there day 1 of ACN forming. Was one of the first original 20 that got started. So can you imagine what her organization looks like today? We don't want to entice. I'm pretty sure we don't want to get a phone call from Dave Merriman in compliance, but can you imagine?
Well, but let me just tell you this. The thing that's so amazing, no one is more blown away about that than me. I mean, no, because I literally shared it with a handful. Who shared it with a handful? Who shared? I did not recruit hundreds of people. I shared it with a handful and I dug through, tap rooting through. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Well, who do you know? Well, who do you know? You know, so that to me really was the key. And then it just goes and grows. And then you wake up one day and you got people like the Mazers in your organization and people like the Streets in your organization, the Navarros and the Potters. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, and you're like, what just happened? I mean, I really realized how incredible ACN is when one day someone walked across the stage and I'm like, oh, wow, good for you. I'm hearing their testimonial, and they walked off and thanked me and said something about, I was like, I was shocked because they were in my organization. And I was like, what? Like, I don't even know you. And you're an RVP and I've never heard your name before. That was shocking to me. And that's when I realized it's not about me. I didn't, you know, I never knew the Streets, right? It's not about you. It's about who you know and who they know, but then it will just go so far beyond you. It's crazy. And the only difference between me and anybody else is time and effort. And literally that's it.
So good. That is so good. That is the dream, y'all. Going to an ACN convention and someone gives an epic RVP promotion speech and comes and thanks you for your yes. Turns out they're in your organization and you promoted an RVP in your downline. Love that. I just shared, I just want to go back really quick because that's powerful when you said, who do you know? And if it's somebody that says, but I can't do this because blah, 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 you just combated it with the opposite of that. Okay, but who do you know that has time or, you know, is younger or is older or has influence or, you know, lives in the right neighborhood? I love that. I wrote that down for myself. That was amazing. I think that probably gave majority, if not all of us, a little perspective shift. Yeah. Like a little paradigm shift of, wait a minute. Go back, you guys. I'm a big note taker. I write down every attendee that comes to my Zooms for follow-ups. I would go back to your guys' Zoom meetings and presentations. Who've you shown the business to? Go back and follow up and say, hey, this business of mine is blowing up. I know it wasn't for you because you said you didn't have time, but who do you know that has time? Or, you know, remember what their reason for saying no to. That was really amazing. Okay, quick question. Quick question. What would you say is like your top 2 personal development books if you were to recommend it to this group?
Oh, books? Top 2. Ugh. Well, I personally really relate to John Maxwell. Anything that he does, I really, really like. His book, Thinking for a Change, is one of my favorites. When I read the title the first time, it was like, thinking for a change. Like, yeah, I gotta think for a change. No, it's thinking for a change. So yeah, anything by him.
I agree. John Maxwell is definitely my top favorite author. If you haven't read it yet, his most recent book was 16 Laws of Communication, Effective Communication. That was phenomenal. If you guys haven't read that, that was phenomenal. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that we can totally keep you here all night, and I know you want to, right, Debbie? You want to hang out with us all night. But we'll do this one last question, but take your time on it because everyone's loving hearing what you're saying. Yes, blow it up in the chat if you're loving what Debbie is saying. Let's keep her on, right? Okay, so as you know, about a week from now, we are approaching our national convention. And for you, you've never missed an ACN convention. Could you just share with us, because there's so many new people on here that have never seen an ACN event, or maybe they've been to 1 or 2, but what is the value of these ACN events? How important is it for truly your business and how you built your business?
Honestly, it is everything. And I know that, you know, people say that, you hear that kind of thing a lot, that it's just, it really, but I mean, for me, because like I said, in the beginning, I just had no confidence at all. And I remember going to our first, what we called big event, you know, and I remember there were hardly anybody there compared to now, but I just will never forget the way I felt. And keep in mind, you know, back then I was so fortunate because Tony and Mike Kupitz were the ones that did most of the trainings at our events, and I got to see them all the time. And even with that, I had the same feeling at this other big event, even though I was seeing the same people at these events. So you would think, well, why would it be different? It just was. And I just can't, I've been trying for 30 years to put it in words, you know, but it's just not something you can put in words. It's something you have to experience. It's like if you've, you know, if you've been to Alaska and you experience the glaciers, you know, if you've been to Norway and experienced the fjords, or, you know, something, I mean, something you have to experience. Like, you can't come home and tell people. When I was in high school, I used to go to Colorado at this camp, and I climbed 5 over my 3 years I was there. I climbed 5 14,000 foot peaks to be on the very top of the mountain with like 14 other people, and that's it. And you can see nothing but mountaintops, and they're all below you. There's just nothing you can say in words that can explain it. They'd come home and say, well, what did you do over your summer vacation? And I'm like, oh, you guys, you won't believe it. And I'm explaining, they're like glazing over. You can't put it in words. And so what I really realized was, this wasn't something you could tell people about. It was something they had to see and experience for themselves, or you were cheating them. If you tried to just let them say, okay, you know, you don't really need to go to really understand this, then I really felt like I was cheating people in the biggest way. So you know, we came up with that saying, you probably heard it, for those of you that have been around a while, that you can be an ACN, but not until you go to a convention. It's when you go to a convention that ACN gets in you. It's not just a saying, it's the absolute truth. And it's unexplainable. But I just remember this feeling at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. I remember feeling terrified at the thought that I might have missed this. And I thought, wow, you know, if I could just get people here to see and hear and feel all the things that I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, and learning, you know, then man, I could probably be successful at this, because I knew I would never be able to go home and have them experience that experience. And so it really is such an important thing for your business. It literally is what built my business. My success is just a product of those conventions, and I'm dead serious. That's why I do not miss them. So it's not mandatory as far as ACN. They have no policies or anything that says the conventions are mandatory. But for me personally, it is mandatory, because I know that's why I'm where I'm at today. I have no delusions of grandeur thinking that I'm where I'm at because I'm so great and wonderful. This business is not about you. It's just not. It's about who you know and them, and who they know and who they know and who they know. And it's about getting people into the right environment. So if there's one thing that I did get really good at, it was mastering, because I heard Tony Kupitz say this, Debbie, if you master promoting the events, I'm telling you, you'll go all the way to the top of this business. And I'm like, really? Okay. So how do you promote an event? Well, first of all, it's got to come from your heart. You have to be passionate about it, because you can't just tell people. There's a huge difference between telling somebody about an event and promoting. Mm-hmm. When you tell somebody, I can tell you all, it's going to be in Cleveland. It's going to be the weekend of June 22nd, 23rd. It's going to be fun. You know, it's going to be at the convention center there. It's going to be, I can tell them all the information, right? I can tell them who the speakers are. I can tell them who, by the way, can't wait to hear you, Melissa and Jeffrey. I can tell you who the speakers are. I can tell you things to expect there, but I cannot even come close to telling you what that experience is going to be for you. I can't come close to telling you the benefit and the value of what's going to happen to you if you take somebody with you. And for those of you that have never been, going is the first thing. It's just the most important thing. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how many people you have with you. You're going to be kicking yourself. You didn't work harder to get somebody else with you, to get more people with you. And so I heard Melissa say, even if, you know, or maybe it was Lauren, I'm sorry, one of you said something about it, people go like within the week or whatever. So I remember I learned another big lesson one time when it was a Tuesday and we had an event in Cherry Hill, New Jersey on Friday. And I said to the guy who was really excited about the business, I said, man, I wish you heard about this sooner. Why? I said, because we're going to all be in Cherry Hill, New Jersey this weekend for a big event for ACN. And he said, and I'm thinking, well, that's way too close. You know, like if it were me and you told me that I had to go on Tuesday, I had to be somewhere Friday, I got kids, I wouldn't have done that. And he said to me, well, am I allowed to go? And I said, would you come? He said, yeah, why wouldn't I? If it's that important, why wouldn't I? Yeah. Okay. You know, so we had a bus going. I said, yep, we got one more seat on that bus. You get on it. And he did. And so I'm telling you, it's not too late until the event is over. Then it's definitely too late, but not till then. So, and if people have a big enough vision for themselves of what they want to do, and they see the opportunity and the value has been created enough for them, they will want to go. They will be willing to make sacrifices. You know, I can't even tell you the different things that I had to do because I did not have the money, or because I had 3 kids and I didn't know what I was going to do with them, because, you know, there were just so many different excuses and reasons and things that I could have made as excuses to miss it. So it's, you know, it's like ACN is easy to do. It's easier not to do. The events to figure out how you can, when you can figure it out, but they're easier to not figure out, you know, just to say, I'll catch the next one. But here's what scares and terrifies me is that I've just seen through my experience, for somebody that sees the business and doesn't go to the convention, I hate to say this, but honestly, they might not even be around by the time the next convention comes up. So because what ACN does is you come out of there and you are bulletproof. You know, your confidence is built, your belief in yourself, your belief in the company, your belief in the service, your belief in everything just goes through the roof. And so it's that belief that moves people into action. And it's only action that's going to create the results. So it's just a matter of, you know, what you're willing to, you know, what you're willing to see as ACN of what this is for you, you know. So I just hope, I mean, I hope that's that was good, okay for you, Melissa, but I just really hope and pray that you see enough in this opportunity for yourself, that if you're not registered to go, that you will do anything in your power to be able to be there, because I'm telling you, it will be worth it. I guarantee you will think it was worth it. I have said that for 30 years. I've never had one person come up to me and say, nah, not really. You know, they're all, and in fact, I've had quite the opposite. I can't even tell you how many people have come up to me through the years and thanked me for saying, man, thanks for giving me that extra little push to go. I'm so glad I'm here. This changes everything. I can't tell you how many people have had goals and dreams that are so important. I mean, way more heart wrenching than I just want to build my dream home. You know, I mean, life-changing reasons that they needed to do ACN, and people that have just come up to me with tears in their eyes. Just thank you so much for making me get here. You know, I mean, really, people that are just so grateful. I don't know anybody who has not found the word gratitude in their vocabulary in a very high level when it comes to this business, because this is a business that I wake up grateful every single day. And I know it just starts. Plus, you know, our co-founders, they're just kind of awesome. And they really are the reason that ACN is what it is. And the most important question really people should ask when they look at this opportunity or any opportunity is, who runs it? Who's answering all the questions? Who's making all the decisions? You know, who owns this thing? And to me, that's the most important question. And people rarely ask it. Who am I in business with? And you will get to meet all the co-founders of the company. And that's unheard of. I mean, when you're talking about a company that is 31 years old, for the co-founders to actually go and be there and train you and teach you, it's extraordinary. So I hope you guys just take this really serious, and just for whatever it's worth, my 31 years of experience, I just hope you can grab onto it and say, okay, we can maybe trust that what she's saying is maybe something I should think about.
If anything, we want you to keep going. Like, just so you guys know, like I'm also trying to take notes here. Here's what I've written down from the summary of what Miss Debbie Davis talked to us about, which we're obviously recording this, and you'll have a playback. But number one, first of all, positives down, negatives up, right? We talked about that. Number two, I love when she said, I've never met a stranger. I don't have a cold market. I just haven't made them a friend yet. They're not my friend yet. I've never met a stranger. What a different shift of how you approach your cold market. Number three, that extra strength, posture. How many of you guys heard Debbie just talk about constant posture? Even if you don't know, but you're acting as if. Acting as if. For the extra 5%. If she didn't go at 11 p.m. that night to whatever it was, Applebee's, to go meet with Danny Volanino, do you know Danny Volanino is who led to Patrick and Michael Mazur, who led to Jeff Street, who led to this right here. So if it weren't for Debbie pick a home phone that rang at 11 p.m., getting her makeup back on, fluffing her hair, walking over to Applebee's, sitting with Danny V until 1 a.m. in the morning, we wouldn't be on here. And then lastly is invite until the last minute for the convention. Like literally until it's over, there is still time to invite people to the convention. So Debbie, thank you so much for that. What would be like a final last thought you leave everybody else with here tonight?
Forget about you and just put your thought on everybody else, thinking about what you can do for them. It's been said over and over, is just forget, you know, you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. But that is just not just a cliche saying. It is just so true. And it helps also with focusing to get out of your own head. It helps with confidence. I remember when I used to get on the stage and talk, I had a really big problem with blushing. I would get just flushed and red, and I would be so embarrassed about that. And that made it worse. And then one day I realized what I was doing was I was thinking about myself. And I thought, when I start to feel that coming on, I'm just going to get my thought right up in me, and I'm going to think about the people that I'm talking to, and I'm just going to focus on them, focus on helping them. So but it helps in every single bit of your life, because this is a very selfless business. And if you can just focus on other people and in helping them and how you can enrich them, I'm telling you guys will go very far, and you'll get everything that you want out of this just by helping other people.
That's so good. That is so good. Okay, last question, truly, but it's not ACN related. If you had to eat something for the rest of your life, what would it be, Debbie Davis?
Chocolate.
Oh, we were friends. I knew we were friends. We're just going to enjoy some chocolate in Cleveland together.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie, for your time. We are so, so grateful for you. I mean, the chat was blowing up with singing your praises, Debbie, truly.
Well, it's an absolute honor. I will do anything I can do for you guys anytime. Do not hesitate to ask me. I appreciate the privilege.
Oh, thank you.